Today on Sports Insider's The Spin, there's a new number one in college football. How long will they last? Can the Nittany Lions avoid a stumble in Camp Randall? And can the Cowboys finally get on track? It's all next on The Spin. Hello, my friends. Ali Melendez here, and this is Sports Insider's The Spin, where, of course, we have a ton of stuff going on. First of all, hello and welcome. Thanks for joining me. All right, what a great time of year it is, right? Tons of amazing sports going on right now. We, of course, have the World Series with the Yankees and the Dodgers. Classic. The NBA regular season is officially underway, as is the NHL, while college basketball is right around the corner. But before we dive into the meat and potatoes of the show, congratulations are in order for the New York Liberty WNBA champs. Woo! Yeah, what a time for women's sports, right? So yeah, it seems like everywhere you look, it is just wall-to-wall action. But as a Capricorn, I'm deeply craving focus and direction. So today we're gonna keep our attention on the football field, one thing at a time. It is there that we saw another shakeup in the college game with yet another new number one as the Oregon Ducks move into the top spot after Georgia's big win in Austin last week. Of course, we'll check in on the Ducks in a moment, but before we do, I just gotta give a quick shout out to our friends at Bet Online. All of our odds here on The Spin are provided by Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and number one source for everything football. So, we love you, Bet Online. Thanks so much. All right, it is time for a huge weekend of college football action. Here to take us through all of it, our very own Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard. They never miss a beat. Welcome, fellas.
What's up, Allie? Thanks so much. Drew Butler back once again with my man Gabe Ikard, taking a look at week 9 of the college football season. Time slow down, Gabe. It is flying by, as it always does. And look, this college football season has lived up to the hype. We have another new number one, of course, as there was a big-time upset in Austin, Texas last weekend. And we got a bunch of ranked-on-ranked matchups coming up the week before Halloween. So let's dive right into it. We're starting with a top 20 Big Ten matchup out in Oregon. Still feels weird to say. The 20th ranked Illinois Fighting Illini heading out to Autzen Stadium in Eugene to take on the newly number one ranked Oregon Ducks. 3:30 p.m. kickoff Eastern time on CBS. Oregon, a huge 21.5 point favorite here, Gabe. This over-under sits at 54.5 points.
It's a big number, which is why I'm telling you right now, I'm taking the points with Illinois.
Okay.
Brett Bielema is going to have all week to be able to play the nobody believes in us card
for sure
with his players. Now, I don't think Oregon is in jeopardy of losing this football game. I think the Ducks get it done. I think it's a workman's-like effort, but I do think that Illinois can run the football. They can control the clock a little bit and shorten this game. And Luke Altmaier is going to have to make some plays in the passing game, but I think the Illini can do what they need to do to keep this thing close. I think Oregon's a very, very good football team, but it's just a huge number, and I think Illinois will come in there motivated, and I think they're going to have some confidence and some belief after beating Michigan the way that they did, even though we all know Michigan isn't what they were the last couple of years this season. I like Illinois in this spot. I'll take that. I'll take all those points.
You know, I thought the spread was a bit interesting as well. Lots of points, which kind of made me scratch my head. And then I dug in a little bit more and I found some really interesting statistics. So stick with me here, Gabe. You'll get a kick out of these. These are from Evan Abrams as a double-digit favorite at Oregon. Dan Lanning is 15-8 against the spread and off extended rest. Remember, the Ducks played on Friday night a week ago, and as a favorite of 14-plus points, Dan Lanning has won those two games by a combined score of 79-19. So the Ducks are situated really well. I think that's why the odd makers have really put this line way up there. Illinois, of course, they had the long travel out to Eugene. Can Luke Altmaier keep the Illini close? Look, their only loss, Illinois' only loss this season, was at Penn State, 21-7. Really couldn't get much going on offense, and Altmaier threw his only interception on the season in that game. I think the only way the Illini can keep it close is to run the football. They need to take care of the football in the time of possession. But I think Oregon is really starting to find their stride. Will there be some added pressure with them being the newly ranked number one team in the nation? Not quite sure. I just like how Dylan Gabriel, Tez Johnson, and this offense is starting to play, combined the physicality of the Ducks defense. In ranked versus ranked matchups, favorites of 20-plus points are 17, 7, and 1 against the spread since 2010. Gabe, all of these statistics are making me lean more and more towards Oregon. It just seems like a tough spot for Illinois. I like that the Ducks are really starting to pick up how they are playing football. It's a big number, but I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to lay the huge line of 21.5 with Oregon. Might be a little tough to watch. Could come down to the wire, but I think the Ducks find a way to stretch the lead, so I'll lay 21.5 with Oregon. All right, let's.
You better put a lock on that back door.
Yeah,
Drew.
I know. It better be
you better
a
bolt that
beatdown.
thing. You make sure you put the little chain like at the hotel.
That's right.
Make sure you've got that thing secured, buddy.
I'll know within the first 10 minutes of action. If Illinois is showing signs of life, it's going to be dead on arrival. But I think the Ducks make it happen. Okay, let's stick in the Big Ten, and we're going up to Camp Randall. The third-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions are at Wisconsin. This kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. Penn State, a 6.5-point favorite. The total here, 48 points.
Can the Nittany Lions slow down Tawee Walker? The Badgers running backs, his production has exploded over these last couple of weeks, and he runs hard. I think that is the key to this game, and I think Penn State's defense is up to the task. I think they're going to make things really tough on Braden Locke in this football game, and I expect Penn State's offense to move the ball, score some points. I expect the run game to be efficient, and I think Drew Aller is going to play at a high level in this one. You better cover Tyler Warren. The guy is a machine at the tight end position for the Nittany Lions. I just think the Penn State's a much more talented football team than Wisconsin at this point. I'm sure Camp Randall will be jumping for this one. I'm certain of it, actually. But I just think the Nittany Lions have more players. So I like Penn State to go in and to take care of business. I'll lay the points with the Nittany Lions.
All right. I'm certainly still waiting on it. And maybe a lot of the public is, as well, as history has shown in the past. But I'm still waiting on that James Franklin slip-up game, as the Nittany Lions are now ranked number 3 in the nation. Gabe, you watch these games. You're interested to see, will Penn State make a mistake, as they have in years past? But then you go to the talent on the offensive side of the ball. You mentioned Drew Aller, the running back duo of Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. They have got things rolling, and they're also coming off a bye week. Remember, they won that overtime thriller at Southern Cal 33-30 2 weeks ago. Another stat for you: Wisconsin is 10-4 against the spread as a home underdog since 2001, which is the best mark in the country, with a minimum of 10 games. The Badgers have also looked much, much better in the last 3 weeks, even without starting quarterback Tyler Van Dyke. They're beaten up on lesser teams. They've had 3 straight blowout victories, Gabe, 2 of those coming on the road. It is a primetime game. Wisconsin's at home. It's Camp Randall, 6.5 points. Now, that is a juicy line for me with the primetime home underdog. I think Wisconsin keeps it close. Give me those 6.5 points. Penn State wins a close one, but Wisconsin covers 6.5. Okay, let's finish things up with a top 15 matchup in the SEC. The 8th-ranked LSU Tigers are heading to Kyle Field to take on the 14th-ranked Texas A&M Aggies. 7:30 p.m. kickoff Eastern time on ABC. And Texas A&M, as a higher-ranked team, is laying 2.5 points. The Aggies are a 2.5-point favorite at home. This over-under sits at 54 points.
I think these are 2 evenly matched football teams. And I think when you look at the spread, Kyle Field is getting the respect that it deserves. Oh, yeah. That is not an easy place to play. I cannot wait to watch LSU's offensive line against that Texas A&M defensive line. That's the stuff for me, Drew. That's what I yearn for on Saturdays. And I just think that I trust Garrett Nussmeier more at this point in time than Connor Wigman.
Right.
He has so many weapons with Lacey and Anderson. I anticipate that they will have some big explosive plays. I think Texas A&M's defense is really good. I think Elko's doing a great job, but I think that's the difference in this game. LSU's ability to produce explosive plays in the passing game, while Texas A&M really doesn't have a guy like Lacey or even Anderson. So I think that's what's the difference in this game. I think LSU not only covers, I like them outright. Give me the Tigers.
I think that's going to be a very popular play. LSU, which has that high-flying offense. Garrett Nussmeier making a great case to be considered the best quarterback in the SEC at the moment. Catching points, 2.5. I expect the public to be all over that number, so you might know where I'm headed. How about this stat? Again, from Evan Abrams, Brian Kelly on a road trip. So a second consecutive game on the road. Gabe, he's 14-3-1 against the spread. His last loss in that spot, 2006, when he was the head coach back at Central Michigan. So he gets the boys focused when they have to go on back-to-back road games. And you can't overlook, because we talked about it last week, that LSU-Arkansas game last week. LSU got a huge win on the road in Arkansas, a team that always plays the Tigers tough. LSU 9-3 against the Aggies since Texas A&M has joined the SEC. There's been some classics, no doubt about it, but LSU has dominated this series since it's come in conference. I expect the Tigers to be a hugely popular pick as a road underdog. I think Texas A&M, though, you mentioned Connor Wegman, hasn't been that efficient or consistent over the past couple of weeks. Mississippi State gave him some fits a week ago. I think the Aggies are going to try to run the football, dominate the time of possession, keep that high-flying LSU offense off the field. Kyle Field at night should be an insane atmosphere. As you said, Gabe, I'm going to fade the trendy underdog in LSU. I'm laying 2.5 points with the Texas A&M Aggies. I cannot wait to tune into that one either. Could be another instant classic as that series has come to produce. It's going to be another awesome weekend of college football, Gabe. We are lucky to be covering this sport. It has been wall-to-wall action since the beginning of the season. Like I said, though, time, slow down. These weeks are flying by way too quick. We need to savor these great weekends while we have them. For Gabe Ikard, I'm Drew Butler. Again, all lines provided by BetOnline here on the Spin Sports Insiders. Allie, we'll throw it back to you.
Awesome. Great stuff. As always, nothing new there, but thanks again to Drew Butler and Gabe Ikard. Well, Drew, by the way, is 6-0 with his college football picks over the past 2 weeks here on the Spin. Incredible. So I guess I'm finally going to start paying closer attention to you, Drew. Got my eyes on you. Now, Drew will be back with us in just a minute, but as I mentioned earlier, I've got to tell you, all our odds here on Sports Insiders of Spin are provided by BetOnline, the world's most trusted sports betting platform. So, with the World Series, NBA, NHL, and of course, college and NFL football, all things that are happening, there's no place better than BetOnline to get in on all the action. So head on over and check them out ASAP. Well, speaking of action, it's another huge week in the NFL, and here to break it all down for us, Drew Butler, Anthony Becht, and Jonathan Casillas. Welcome, guys.
Thanks so much, Allie. That's right. It is time to look towards Week 8 of the NFL season. Drew Butler here, as always, with my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas. Guys, I can't believe October is almost over. So let's dive right into the action this week as teams are starting to really figure out who they are as we progress towards the second half of the NFL season. How about this matchup in Cincinnati? The Philadelphia Eagles are heading into the jungle to take on the Cincinnati Bengals, 1 p.m. Eastern time kick on CBS this Sunday. Anthony, the Bengals are 2.5-point favorites. The total here, 48 points.
Yeah, really two teams that, although they're in good sitting right now coming off wins, I really don't know what they are yet. I think some of their best players haven't really maxed out to their abilities. You look at the Bengals, really one-dimensional, right? I mean, they don't have a running game. Joe Burrow has been phenomenal, but it hasn't been enough in a couple games this year. And then he kind of plays an okay game, no turnovers against the Browns, and they're able to squeak out a win against them. And then on the flip side, you look at the Eagles. Again, kind of been one-sided. They've been running the ball really effectively. Jalen Hurts has been okay, not great. I think, he really hasn't played to the level he's played in years past. And a week ago, they barely beat the Browns. So these are two teams kind of right in the same area right now. When I look at these two, I really think it is a coin flip game. I mean, it's a very close one when I look at it. I'm going to go on the other side of this with the over-under. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think defenses at the last token, or last bet, you're going to see good play on both of those sides. They both played well last week, and I think that they're going to step up in this game. It's going to be who's going to make the key play on offense. And until I see more consistency on both sides of the ball for the offensive side of each team, I think the defenses prevail here. I see low scoring, under the 48 in this game, and sit back and, hope for both of these defenses to step up.
Anthony, I got to go on the other side of this, man. I'm not looking at a good defensive game because I don't think neither one of their defense is good. I watched the Eagles, run up and down the field literally against the New York Football Giants last week, dominating the Giants, only allowing 2.2 yards per play. But the Giants were missing Andrew Thomas, and the Giants are just not doing anything this year offensively. So I think that was a false picture that we got from that Eagles defense, even though they had 8 sacks, but it wasn't the same against the other opponents. They only had 11 sacks coming into the game. So I don't think neither one of the defense is good. And with how good the Bengals are playing offensively and what I saw from the Eagles, what they did with Saquon Barkley against the Giants last week, 176 rushing yards, I don't see them not being able to do that to Cincinnati. I don't believe the Cincinnati defense is good at all against the pass or against the rush. So I think it might be actually a high-scoring game because of the lack of defense that we're going to get from both teams. I love what I'm seeing from Joe Burrow. I think he's having a pretty good year, but it's not adding up to the wins like you said, Anthony. They're a team that's kind of trying to figure out the identity. And I believe the same thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. But with all that being said, look, I think the Eagles are a pretty decent team. And if Saquon can do anything of what he did last week against the Giants, I think the Eagles have run away with this game. So give me the 2.5 points with the Eagles on the road.
Wow, looks like we're going to be all over the board here, guys. After a disastrous start to the season, the Cincinnati Bengals have a chance to get back to 500 with a win this weekend against the Eagles. But get this, the Bengals are currently 0-3 at home. I have a really hard time believing that they're going to start this season off 0-4 inside Paycor Stadium. Yes, the Eagles are starting to play better. Actually, both teams are, but they've been getting right, beating up on lesser opponents. Can the Eagles find enough offense versus a trending Cincinnati defense to keep pace with the Bengals' elite offense? I think that's the biggest question here. Yeah, I know Joe Burrow kind of regressed last week, but he did not throw an interception. T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, they definitely missed Joe Mixon. There's no question about that. But simply put, you got to take the Bengals in this spot. Less than a field goal, no chance. They start out 0-4 at home in the 2024 season. So for that reason, I'm going to lay the 2.5 points with the Cincinnati Bengals. All right, let's head out west. We got 2 division leaders matching up. The Buffalo Bills, leading the way in the AFC East, are heading to Seattle to take on the Seahawks, who are atop the NFC West. This is a 4:05 p.m. Eastern kick on Fox. Anthony, the Bills are a 3-point road favorite. The total here, 48 points.
Yeah, I've been a little bit worried about Seattle. They've been kind of consistent early with 3 straight losses and then finally going to a tough place in Atlanta and winning a really tough football game. They're able to produce 2 interceptions and 3 sacks versus Atlanta in an environment that I think is very tough to play in coming across the country. So I don't know, though, if they're quite on track. And on the flip side, I look at the Bills. They're 4th in the NFL in points scored this year. Really, if you're looking at their division and where they sit right now, they got to think blood's in the water. They have a really good chance to separate themselves. You have a desperate Jets teams that are right now on the ropes trying to hang on, and who knows if they'll be able to reel off a bunch of wins. But you got to think that they have players in place to make that happen. So for the Bills, man, you got to keep building upon that. And I just think right now, they probably had their lull already, and maybe they're going to start trending a little bit more consistently as far as, complementary football. I think their defense has been okay. Clearly, their new safeties and secondary, it's taken some time to get them right, but I really like the way some of those players have played the last couple of weeks. And then you look at their offense, Coleman, 100-yard game. He's starting to come around. Shakur is getting healthy. He's a player that, has got that quick inside. And then they go get a guy where they only have to pay $800,000 for him. In Amari Cooper, and the guy goes out and has 60-plus yards and a touchdown the first game, and the touchdown pass that he caught, he didn't even know the route. He had help from his buddy on the outside on that audible to give him and he's still able to win in one-on-one coverage. So, look, you get in a 1, and you're adding him to your team, and you get great value for it. It's a great position for them right now. And again, Geno Smith has been good this year. I think, for me, I think last year was maybe a bit of an enigma. He really overplayed himself. And this year he's been okay. He's been steady. He's dangerous. They got weapons. DK Metcalf can always go at you. But I kind of like this line where I think there's some value here for the Bills. I think they can win by a touchdown on the road. I'm going to take Buffalo in this circumstance.
Hey, I'm with you, Anthony. Look, I think the Bills, they found their number one wide receiver. We've seen a couple games this year where they looked like they were struggling without Diggs, having that number one guy. Keon Coleman had a great game last week, but he's young. Amari Cooper coming into this, this last week's game, he only played 18 snaps, but he still had 66 yards, four catches, and a touchdown. Like you said, he didn't even know to play, but he's that good that he can beat basically any covering corner, safety, nickelback, whoever it is, one-on-one. He's that type of player. And then you add the health of James Cook with him coming back to the lineup and what Josh Allen is doing and what he's not doing. He's not turning the ball over as we're used to seeing him. We're used to seeing him scoring touchdowns, but it wasn't too far that he would have an interception or a fumble or whatever the case is. He's limiting those this year. So I do like the Bills. And on the other side of it, look, Seattle's a tough team. I think they're a good team. Geno Smith is having a great year, leading the league in passing. DK Metcalf blocking people with one arm, just bullying people. His health, is he going to be healthy this week? I think that's a huge question that everybody needs to pay attention to. I love Kenneth Walker. I think he's one of the most underrated backs in the league, doing it in the passing game and the running game, a ferocious running back. And what Seattle's defense did last week, finished the game against Atlanta with 3 turnovers and a pick 6, just really having a great game. But if the Bills can figure out how to get Amari Cooper to over 50, 60 snaps a game, they're going to be able to score into the 30 points, I think, consistently for the rest of the season. I think their offense is that good. And Seattle, I don't know what that 12th man, but it's not the same as it used to be, Anthony. They were quiet against the Giants when the Giants went up there from the beginning of the game. So I don't know if that's going to be a big factor with the Bills on the road. And I'm with you. I'm going to take the points and go with the Bills.
All right, looks like I might be on the opposite side here, guys. It's a home underdog. I love that spot. But look, the Seahawks had that impressive victory a week ago in Atlanta, and that just seemed like a really bad spot for the Falcons. They were on a 3-game winning streak against some really tough opponents. Seahawks were on a 3-game losing streak in a desperate spot. Kind of saw that one coming from a while away, and most importantly, the Seahawks went in there and took care of business. Why? Because the Falcons don't have any pass rush. You have to apply pressure to Geno Smith, get to him inside the pocket, flush him outside of the pocket so he cannot deliver the ball downfield. Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Noah Fant. Can the Bills do that? That's the biggest question. DK Metcalf seems to be questionable at the moment, Jonathan. Head coach Mike McDonald came out and said, thankfully, it doesn't look too bad, even though he was carted off the field in Atlanta a week ago. But Geno Smith, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, from a statistical perspective, when he is able to throw that ball down the field. And Anthony, you had mentioned the Bills secondary still trying to find their stride. They have not faced a passing attack like the Seahawks are going to present them with in Seattle. I know the 12th man has been a little bit different this year. Probably the most impressive thing, though, in this matchup, Josh Allen, no interceptions on the season. That is absolutely crazy to think about. This is a guy that was so turnover prone. Whatever he did in the offseason, it is clearly working. Can the Bills get after Geno Smith? I'm a little bit hesitant to think that they can. Then I think that their inexperience in the secondary from a team perspective provides a lot of opportunity for the Seahawks to keep this game close. That's what I think happens. I think they keep it close. Watch this game with one eye closed. Give me the Seahawks +3. All right, we got to go to Sunday Night Football. 2 teams that are, quite frankly, in dire straits. The Dallas Cowboys coming off a bye. They're heading out to the Bay Area to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who have been decimated by injuries. Of course, 8:20 p.m. kickoff Eastern time on NBC. It's Sunday Night Football. Anthony, the 49ers are 4.5-point favorites. This total is 47 points.
Yeah, it's a tough one. You're right. 2 teams that are really desperate at this point. You always want to lean maybe on the team coming off a bye, but I don't know historically. You may have some numbers how well the Cowboys are after a bye. I don't know if it's that great.
Yeah.
I think, when you look at the Cowboys this season, man, there's no in between with this football team. They're either the worst team in the NFL to people, or they're the cream of the crop. Dak is great. Everything's clicking and they're going. They do have 2 games this year, though, where they've given up 40-plus points. Yeah. to two opponents. And you look at the Saints, they're not really the same team they were early in the season. I just think week to week, everything can change. I really think that they have pieces, they have weapons, that they needed to get healthy defensively. I think they were kind of limping around.
Right.
On the flip side with Brock Purdy and the 49ers, man, they're kind of in a spot where people haven't seen them in the last couple of years. Purdy, the last 2 games, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Is he still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL? Absolutely. I'm all over that train. But right now, he may be in a little bit of a lull, first time in his career. There's been a lot of conversations, him and Kyle Shanahan, kind of a little bit more there where you've seen where, there's still trust, but maybe there's like, hey, you're not in the groove right now. You're maybe overthinking things. And again, how does Brock handle that for the first time in his career? Does it end in one game, or does it, maybe last a little bit where they're going to be grinding every single week? When I look at this, man, I really think that the Cowboys are coming into a good spot. Yeah, they're both desperate for a win, but the 49ers, to me, I don't know if right now they can figure things out as quickly as they want to. I don't know if it's quite, they turn the switch back on and they're there. Are they still one of the better teams in the NFC? Yes, but where they're at in this spot, we've seen good teams sometimes go on 3-4 game stretch where they're just maybe not there, and then bam, they go on 6-7 straight wins. So maybe this is where the 49ers are. They need to figure it out. It's tough for me to pick against them at home, but with the with the points at 4.5, I think the Cowboys can hang around in this game. I think they can win this game, but keep it close to a field goal. Anything can happen, right? But 49ers just got to get a little bit more consistent for me. Just believing that they're just the 49ers are going to do it. I don't know if that flies right now in this point of the season, but they can definitely change the narrative moving forward. I think the Cowboys, though, again, with the bye, they got to come out fresh, ready to go, and I think they'd have a really good plan. There's a lot there for them to expose if they can take advantage of it. Rolling with the Cowboys.
Yeah, I hear you, Anthony. Both teams, a lot of injuries defensively for the Cowboys, and Cowboys not being able to really run the football. They're a joke at home, but maybe not on the road. They're traveling over to California. I don't think they're as bad or as much of a joke as they are at home as they are on the road. So I'm with you. I think this is going to be a close game. And you look at the other side, the 49ers, they got physically manhandled by the Chiefs, giving up 184 rushing yards, capped by Mahomes running over their young Mustafa safety that actually a hard hitter, but he just got trampled by Patrick Mahomes. But that's kind of how the game went. They got straight trampled by the Kansas City Chiefs, who not looking like the same Chiefs that we've known from, for years past, the Super Bowl championship Chiefs, but their new identity that they have, they stamped it with another win over the 49ers. So look, this team, I love both of these teams historically. I hate the Cowboys now, as you guys know that. But I think they play a lot better on the road. I don't know what it is about home, but they do play a lot better on the road. And I think they can keep this game close, like Anthony said. So I think the 49ers actually win this game, but the Cowboys keep it close. So give me the points of the Cowboys on the road.
All right, Jonathan Casillas being unbiased towards the Cowboys. I did not have that on my bingo card for week 8 of the NFL season, but you're right. The Cowboys on the road, they're undefeated this season. They're 3-0 on the road. And Anthony, you are so correct. There is no in-between with the Dallas Cowboys, which is kind of interesting. We've all been on teams that go up and down and up and down. You figure that you're able to know what your recipe is to eke out a win, to really grind out a win, what that style of play looks like in order to at least compete, right? The Cowboys do not have that. The last loss, as you mentioned, 47-9 at home to the Lions, completely embarrassed. They got the bye week. Which way do they go? Couldn't find any interesting statistics off the bye week, but Mike McCarthy, he is in a tough spot here. If they come out flat out of the bye week, it could be really troublesome in Dallas. Jerry Jones could be making some decisions. San Francisco 3-4 straight up and against the spread on the season. But the injuries on both sides, guys, the 49ers lost Brandon Ayuk last week to a torn ACL. So Brock Purdy now with less than another of his superstars. They're getting Ricky Pearsall back in the fold. That should be able to help him. But on Dallas's defense, injuries on the defensive line. Linebackers are injured as well. I think that sets up perfectly for what Kyle Shanahan wants to do on offense with his run game. That kind of stretch zone run game, take the ball out of Brock Purdy's hands. Don't put him in too many pressure-packed situations. The look-ahead line in this game, guys, was the 49ers as a touchdown favorite. Injuries to the Niners, more injuries to the Cowboys. It's brought this line down to 4.5. I think that provides value for San Francisco at home. Yeah, they got smoked by Kansas City. That played into that line change down to 4.5 as well. But I think that tumble of the line provides value on the 49ers. So I'm going to lay the 4.5 with San Francisco at home on Sunday Night Football. That'll be a great nightcap for a great weekend, of course, in the NFL. It's week 8, guys. When we come back, we'll be into November, which is crazy to think about. Always appreciate it. As always, lines are provided by Bet Online here on The Spin. For my guys, Anthony Becht and Jonathan Casillas, I'm Drew Butler. Allie, we'll throw it back to you.
Wow, well, thank you so much to the pros. Drew, Anthony, Jonathan, appreciate your insight as always. Well, my friends, before I sign off, a huge thank you again to BetOnline for providing all of the odds on today's show. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and #1 source for everything football, not to mention the World Series, NBA, and NHL. So head on over to BetOnline to get in on all of the incredible action today. All right, my friends, that is it. Enjoy the great weekend of football and sports action. I know I will. And thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Sports Insiders The Spin.